All right. Race Brain HYROX Show Special Edition. It's BK, it's late.
It's late.
It's late. Most of the time when we're recording, we're having a little resolute, but tonight we got a bush
classing the
latte.
joint up a little.
Classing the joint up a little bit. It's a Friday night. We're having a bush latte. It's your boy, Matt Mason, joined tonight by Bracken Crocker, Mr. Wisconsin himself. Dude's got a 50K in the morning. So we're gonna be diligent here. We think Jack's joining. We'll see. Time will tell. And we are here to talk about the Las Vegas Elite 15 major that just went down. Men's race finished literally 10 minutes ago. BK, give me some initial thoughts just on the race overall.
This race, men and women combined, outside of Lauren, kind of just reinforced that the rules don't apply in modern day HYROX. None of the storylines that people really harped on, including us, really played out all that much.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It was both races were shocking.
Yes.
Shocking in the sense of we saw people who were way back early fight all the way up. And we saw people who had leads in places that we haven't seen them give them up before and then fall way back. And I guess question for you, for years, the first couple of years of HYROX, it was always, it's the Hunter McIntyre show. It's Hunter versus everybody else, and no one can touch him. And then the women's
Mike Spring working today.
Yeah, Mike Spring is working. And then in the women's side, it was like, oh, there's Lauren and there's some competitors. I think dare I say that the script is officially flipped, and the men's race is now wide open. And the women's race is a 2-horse race. Is that fair?
I mean, even that, it's fair. And I'm nervous committing to that because none of it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense according to HYROX rules, like Dylan today. Dylan was on fire. And he made Hunter look human. And then you look at what Hunter did to the rest of the field. He was plus a minute on everyone while cracking. So if you said Hunter beats JK by a minute and JK's on the podium, you're like, well, Hunter wins. Right? Like, if you say Hunter cleared the field by a minute, like he is who we thought he was. And yet Dylan's sitting there up top. So if you take out Dylan's second best race of his life, Hunter still was the class of the field. So I don't know. Is it wide open? It's wider open than we thought, but he still was really, really, really good. He was still better than everyone else, but people can beat him on their best day now. It's wild. You're muted.
No audio, Matt.
We lost you, Matt.
To your point from the preview show, we still have yet to see Hunter win a race if he wasn't leading after, I think you said burpees. And interestingly enough, that's where Dylan made his move. Dylan made his move on
really
burpees.
Close though. Like
it was,
yeah,
but it was still burpees, and that was the move.
And they came off together, and Dylan had 2 seconds by the time he met, and then Hunter clawed it back down. But this is again what we saw from Hunter at Worlds, which is he's as tough as anyone, he's as fit as anyone, but when he has to start playing catch up, he responds to energy expenditure like a mortal. Like a barely mortal. He still almost pulled it off, but he cracked on wall balls because he sold his soul catching back up to that spot. You have to get him to extend one notch past what he can. And he will do that because he's as feisty as anyone. We've only ever seen one person at a time be able to, and 2 at Worlds, be able to take him to that spot. And Dylan took him to that spot today.
Yeah. So we've got our third co-host, Jack Bauer, is now on the show. So Jack, we were just going through initial reactions overall. We haven't dove into any of the races yet. What are your initial takeaways from what you saw tonight?
I mean, that men's race was really, really exciting. I heard you guys talking about that initially. So if you want to stay on that one, I think Hunter.
Yeah, I do want to pull this. I do want to pull this comment up from Scott on YouTube. I think that you all would know better than me, the OCR coverage. But I agree. Other than the video glitches that happened a couple of times and a couple of audio miscues, we had instant replay. The Jake Dearden instant replay on the sandbag drop, that was. I was like, oh my gosh, guys, that happened 10 seconds after it happened in real time. Like, this is legit coverage.
Throwing penalty flags, all that, with retrying.
Our boy Rich getting penalty. Now we know, like, whereas
like
what
an
was it
NFL
at
game,
Worlds?
just like Scott said.
Yeah, at Worlds, we didn't know what was happening until after the fact, and you knew exactly what was going on. And I thought, that was even interesting. There was some confusion. I think Greg and Meg were confused about why he got the penalty, and within 5 seconds of their confusion,
someone's in their ear.
I don't know if someone's in their ear or someone ran up, but they knew exactly what had happened. I mean,
I didn't know that rule.
The coverage is getting to be incredible. I mean, it really. All right. Well, since we did start on the men's, and Jack, that's where you're going. Maybe that's where we'll start. We'll start with that race first. So, Jack, why don't you continue that thought?
Yeah. So Hunter didn't win, but I think it's almost good that he didn't, from mentality perspective, where he still has to do something to prove he's the best, because that happened against Ryan Kent in Chicago 2021 at the North American Championship, and that was kind of the only time he really lost until that point, and then he came back and ended up winning the World Championship that year. So he's very close, but I think that he's still going to be hungry, as opposed to being like, oh, I just took a 7-month break, nothing's changed, I'm still the man, look at this, I can do whatever I want and just tail someone and then just catch him on wall balls at the end, because that's not going to happen. He has to adjust his race strategy. And Matt, you might have been the one who said it when he was talking with his coach about how you could either win the Tour de France or you could set records. That it sort of seemed like in his post-race interview that he was in his mind like, okay, I'm not gonna burn another match here, I'm gonna stay in contact and then pass him on the wall balls at the end. But he just didn't. I don't think he's deep enough in training where he can do 100 unbroken at the moment, but he seemed to have at least been a little bit more intelligent with his training. I was snapping a picture.
I was snapping a picture of the final results because the
HYROX was at your window. You're taking an intruder shot.
Yeah.
No,
I can't stop you. I got to take a picture of the burger.
No, the website is still trash, so you can't see anything past 10. So for the purposes of draft, I need to see that final 10. I agree, Jack. I think the thing though that is interesting, and I don't think that this takes away from Hunter's legacy, because obviously Hunter's been doing this for a long time now. He's been doing it for 14, 15 years across OCR and
his first OCR.
Okay, so 13 years. He's been doing this 13 years across 2 different sports. He's a world champion. I still think that no matter what happens, he'll go down as one of the greatest of all time in HYROX. But I do think I hear you on that, but I do think that it is going back to something that BK said before you joined. I think it's a big deal that he lost to Dylan Scott. And I'm not taking anything away from Dylan. Dylan, obviously, when Dylan has his day, he can steamroll. We proved that in DC. He is definitely up there. But Hunter talks about all of his opponents, and Dylan Scott is, but he has named Dylan, and Dylan is not someone that Hunter is, or at least the way he talks about him, it doesn't sound like it's someone that he respects as a competitor. He talks about how he's overtrained. He talks about how he's doing too much. He talks about how he'll never break through. All of these things. And to BK's point, if you're Hunter and someone who you have literally just been like, that dude is just a gnat for years, just gave it to you. Does that chink the armor? I mean, BK, you know him better than anybody, but does that chink the armor? I mean, like, he didn't get beat by Ronk. You didn't get beat by JK,
but he beat JK by a good margin. So
and that goes back to Bracken's point, which is I think the men's field is why. I mean, we were talking on this show, the ascension of JK is this. This is going to be JK and Hunter, And how far back did JK finish?
Right.
No, a
Fourth,
minute and a
right?
half.
Yeah.
I think this matters more to the field than it matters to Hunter.
Mhm.
Because to your point about this is his second sport and this is 13 years or 12 years or whatever, there's always someone, Ryan Atkins has said this, other people in other sports have said this, like there's always the next guy that's supposed to be the one to beat me. And from time to time, some of them do, right? There's always someone. I can't win all of them. So he knows the sport. He knows Dylan can pop when he pops, and he's going to look at it and be like, okay, he got me on his best day, and this is my first race back in a long time, and I still smoked the heir apparent and all the rest of the field. Like, I'm not too worried. I fine tune a little bit and I'm good. Like, he's going to take a look at some of his splits, his burpee broad jumps, his lunges, his wall balls, and be like, I was nowhere near my best, so I'm fine. But what that does for the rest of the field is say, listen, it didn't take a rank. It didn't take Sandy and Ronk working together. It didn't, like, JK wasn't even in it. And one of us still beat him. And it's one of us who's taken almost last in some races. So I think it just means more to them.
It gives hope because a lot of them have been like, I've beaten Dylan. Why can't I be that guy? But on the other side, we need to compliment Dylan. Like, I don't know what you guys did in the first few minutes of this video.
You sing his praises. There's something happening outside, and it is
Sirens.
11 o'clock. I got to see what's happening.
Okay, yeah. We got Matt taking pictures of burglars. I guess I'm next after Brack is done with this. But Dylan, that was...
We're under attack in Milwaukee.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm safe in Colorado. So maybe they're just trying to take you guys out there. Like, you guys can't be the capital of the
maybe
HYROX world anymore. But yeah,
maybe.
Dylan was crazy impressive. We saw what he did at Ducker World Championship. Just kind of, he was the class of the field there. It's a different style of race. We've always known he's fit. He's won a major in the past in DC. Didn't have as good competition that year, but he's been at Worlds. He's finished like 6th or 7th in the past couple times. And yes, he has big peaks, big valleys. But what he did here, and then in Dallas, like a week after Rich set, that everyone was talking about Rich's 54-28 or whatever time he ran in Chicago. And then Dylan comes and beats him, and now he wins a major. And the whole issue, it seems, has been Dylan can't travel overseas. Like right now, Dylan's got to be thinking, this is on U.S. soil for the World Championship. I just took down a 3-time world champion. I've won many big races in the past calendar year, past 6 months. He's got to be feeling really, really good about his chances right now.
Has to. I mean, has to. I will say that was an impressive race by Dylan. So what I did was, since we didn't have the leaderboard, I was taking pictures of the splits as they finished each station to try to get an idea of where things stood and
where the movement happened.
Yeah, where the movement happened. And honestly, he wasn't one of the first 3 in to Skierg, but he came out 3rd. He was 9 seconds.
I thought he was up at the front because it was.
He did make a move. He did make a move, but it was I believe Hunter. Tim, Hunter, and James. Yeah, he was right behind.
4th. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was right behind. And then he was 10 seconds behind on the sled push. He came out of the sled pull, still 10 seconds behind. And like BK said, he left the burpees 2 seconds ahead on the timing mat. So I think what's interesting, or the point that I was going to make on that is, you go back to, I don't want to say when Dylan Scott arrived on the scene, because I think he finished like 6th or 7th in Vegas, I believe. Yeah. But it was 2022, 2023, the Chicago race, the one that Megita won, where him and Dylan both just kind of ate up the field and came from behind. Dylan ran this race as a front runner. Mm-hmm. He's within 10 seconds of arguably the greatest of all time the entire time, and he hung with him on the sleds. He out burpeed him. I mean, I'd like to see the splits. We can't. Shout out HYROX.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the splits, but I imagine he probably got Hunter on most of those stations the rest of the way through.
9-10 seconds on the burpees.
And it was like 22 seconds or so on lunges.
Huge gap.
Yeah. And we had a little watch party with our little Milwaukee HYROX group. And I thought to myself, okay, so Dylan said in Dallas, he needed 45 seconds on Rich if he was going to hold them off. And obviously, wall balls are not Dylan's strength, or at least that wasn't. And in 2 months since that race happened, he finally dropped at 70, 75. And then he dropped one more time. But at that point, he had it in the bag because Hunter dropped. I mean, yeah, I think if you're Dylan Scott and this race is this world championship race is in Chicago, you got to feel really good about your chances. You have to.
He
But
believed he could win worlds, and now he knows.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he's got that edge. He said on Instagram before the race, or it was in the media day yesterday. He said, for the first time, sometimes I play it down, but I'm here to win the race. I'm here to win the race, and he won the race.
Bracken, you talk about it all the time where if like you're a 16 flat 5K guy and you beat a 14 flat in OCR, suddenly you're a 14 flat OCR guy. It's like Dylan has beaten world champions and world championship podium athletes. He's essentially that, like he has that on his resume at that point. It's not official, but he has the skill set and the ability to do it at this point. And he's got to have the confidence.
So the fascinating thing to me is that he's doing Hunter's strengths from a endurance standpoint. He skis and ergs with Hunter. In fact, he outrode him today, and he outskied him by a second or two. And he's doing it from a stay power standpoint and a work rate, and he outpulled him today.
That was the biggest shocker. I was like, I
almost
couldn't
matched his
believe
push,
he stayed with him,
and he out-wall balled him, and he's doing it from like a distance runner frame and from a body of work fitness. Like Hunter has backed off his sled pushes. He breaks early. He does it tactically. He extends on runs and he extends on burpee broad jumps with technique, but he's backed off some of his power, and Dylan can match him and come off running. It's just it does. If you looked at the splits, you wouldn't be able to pick the body type of what was happening. So what do you do against a guy like that on that kind of day, against the skinniest guy there who is matching the strongest guy on the strong stations?
I've got another observation on that, where in the women's race, it definitely looked like the sleds were slow. They didn't look crazy slow, but they definitely weren't fast in the men's field. And if we look ahead at Chicago, historically, that's been a fast venue. Could we have the same carpet there? Like, is it gonna be a fast sled day? That all goes in Dylan's favor, I would imagine. Even though today he kind of proved that he can hang with the best, arguably of all time at this on the sleds, both push and pull, regardless of how heavy it is. But that could be a big advantage for him. But the question I have for you guys is, we're missing Alex, we're missing Sandy, who hasn't qualified yet, who presumably could. The pacing might be different at World Championship today. Hunter seemed complacent. Not
can't go out hotter than that.
Yeah, I clocked. So I know you're going with that, Jack. I clocked it. So I took notes like stream of conscious as it was happening, and my note after the sleds was, did Tim and JK pay for run 1 station 1? They ran a 3:08. I mean, I don't know that it can go.
That's 5 flat pace. Like,
I don't know that they can.
We don't know what distance that run was, but visually, my note was, as we're watching this, I thought, I don't look this fast running 5K pace. This looked, if you just showed me a video of big guys running like this, I would think they're running a mile race and think these guys are fast milers. Like there was an aggressiveness to that stride that we've only really seen maybe Ronk, and I guess our famous German policeman goes out with that type of like aggressive
Lauren does
stride, but we haven't seen it. And we saw 3 people doing it. It was so, and yes, they paid for it. It was so fast, but I don't believe he can go out faster than that.
Yeah. To me, this
they
like
surged in the K.
Yeah. They were like, it was like Tim and JK were working together. It was almost like they were like, let's do what Sandy and Ronk did and see if we can break him. And Hunter didn't really try to go with him, which, I thought was
closed in.
He was in contact.
Yeah, he was in contact.
It was 3 and then 4, a big gap.
I'm just saying, we get to Worlds, and if Ryland somehow gets in there, and to your point, Jack, if Sandy gets in there and Ronk gets in there, I mean, we might have a blow up of epic proportions.
Yeah.
at Worlds, because if we've got 7, 8 guys going out at 5-minute pace, 5:15 pace, I mean, and here's a question for you guys on Hunter. One more question on Hunter, and then we can move off Hunter because there's other notable men's races here. BK, you probably know him best, and I was in his. I've been a part of House. Hunter's never really focused too much, and he's like talked about this on his podcast. He's never really focused too much on like HYROX specific work. He has always been a runner, a cyclist, and just be strong as an ox. And fitness is fitness, and it'll translate over to the race. We talked about this a little bit. We talked about this a little bit on the preview show about watching Hunter's content. He's been doing more HYROX specific sims, lunges, wall balls, things that he historically hasn't done. And I'm wondering do you think he feels the pressure of the field catching up, and now he's doing different things in training? Like he's never gonna. Hunter is Hunter, so he's never gonna show that he's nervous or that he's worried. He's always going to kind of carry that air. But you gotta wonder, like, is it starting to get to him a little bit? I mean, he's doing things he's never done before because he feels the field around him closing in.
Yeah, for sure. And Rich and I, maybe Jack, you're part of this conversation. We talked about it a month or two ago, that one of the downsides of Hunter being able to dabble in other things and then sharpen up and win is that he has the most disjointed HYROX training history. And all the other guys have built up their HYROX like theory and strategy, and they're fine tuning. Like JK is probably on week 39 of a specific progression. And Rich has dropped his volume this year and learned from last HYROX build. And Hunter does a lot of throw of everything out and start a new thing style because it's all worked for him. And then he gets a new idea. So he actually has the least amount of HYROX training, like uninterrupted, of anyone in that field, because they've all built off what they did the previous year, and he builds other things. So he is changing things, but I don't know if he knows, and I haven't talked to him about this, but I don't know if he knows what his best style of HYROX training is, because he's won world championships off of different things each time, and it was preceded by a different other physical pursuit that he did. And now he wants to get specific, but I don't know where that puts him now. He might be in a great place because he might be able to build off this block. And he hasn't been able to build off a block in a long time because he sharpens so hard he's cooked.
He's got like 5 months till Worlds. You've got time to figure it out realistically, and he's got the trophies to prove that, or 4. But he's got the trophies and the accolades to prove he knows what he's doing to sharpen perfectly at championship time. So I think that he's going to go back, look at what has worked, probably have respect for a few more athletes than he did entering this season, and realize like you can't just show up and be the man anymore. But I think that it's going to be the wild, wild west when it comes to the rest of this season. How the heck is Glasgow going to go? Those last 3 spots are insane.
That's my point. It's wide open. And the other storyline that I want to get to that proves the point that it's wide open is securing the 3rd and final qualifier spot is the Kiwi himself, Bo Wills. Put some respect on that man's name. Bo has always raced strong. He's a back half racer. He typically, he actually kind of now is like the new Joffrey from BK's point of he's going to close from somewhere. Is he going to close from 15th? Is he going to close from 11th? Is he going to close from 7th? I've got it right here. Hunter finished at 57.08. Bo finished at 57.34.
Yeah.
So 25 seconds behind Hunter. He went unbroken on the wall balls. Dr. Frankenstein, I saw the other day that Bo is now apparently a hybrid engine athlete. Just another one in the stable. I mean, that this is a guy who has always been in Elite 15, but he's kind of been in that like
good enough to get there, but not
good enough to get there, but not good enough to compete. And
he had Stockholm a podium once.
Yes,
but he was always doing it off stations.
Yes,
and what looked markedly improved it today?
He can move.
He's running.
Yeah.
He's like Mariano Rivera. Like he's a closer, and you know what you're getting from him. He's gonna throw a cutter every time. With Bo, you know he's gonna close on those last couple stations. you better have a gap on him. And we saw what he did on the second half of lunges and then into wall balls. He essentially outkicked James Kelly on the wall balls. His running is fantastic. It's so crazy. Like, the guy could finish third this race. He might finish 8th next time, but he is in the mix officially.
I mean, I'm stoked for the rest of the season because we had the ascension of Alexander Ronkovich at the World Championship, and he crushes in Amsterdam. And like, when you think that this is the new guy, to BK's point, JK comes in Hong Kong, and like all of a sudden now we've got, there's a mix up. And then leading up into this race, I mean, they even said it on the broadcast. Lauren and Meg literally said, this is the JK, and everyone wants to see JK and Hunter and who's going to win. And JK wants to beat Hunter. And like, no disrespect to JK, he wasn't a factor until the end. He was a factor at the beginning. He faded at one point. He was in like 9th or 10th, and respect, he did crawl his way back up, but he wasn't really a factor, and you weren't really worried that he was going to catch the front runners on the wall balls. I mean, this field is wide open.
It's what we want. I don't want runaways. I want it when we're just like, oh, well, I think this person's going to end up on the podium and they end up getting 11th because there are so many good people to get in the way. I like the unpredictability. There's parity in the sport. It's great for watching, and the coverage is fantastic. So when you don't know who's going to win and you have really good coverage, that's like the perfect formula, in my opinion.
It was exciting from wire to wire.
I want to talk about JK for a second, because he's going to get a lot of second guessing from people about this race. And rightfully so. They're going to say he went out too hard. And some people are going to say, listen, we talked about it on Race Brain. It was bound to come down to earth at some time. You can only stay sharp for so long. Like, at some point it's going to come back. But what I thought watching this was, he is so good. He went out obnoxiously hard, faded back through the stations that should end you, and kept surging back up and still finished up there. Like that, he moved back up through the field in a way that only truly great athletes can. He was expending so much extra energy to run himself and transition himself and lunge himself back into the race after having already, what I thought was, cracked. That's a special loss he took today. Like, he lost in a way that probably only 3 people on this earth could lose. So yes, they're going to question him, but I just want to say that this loss impressed me by him. His strategy didn't impress me, but his fitness came through, and the dog in him showed today.
So that's actually a note that I wrote down. Was this a test for JK? And what I meant by that specifically was, he's already secured a spot to Worlds. To Jack's point, we've got 4 months to find out, to sharpen, to work on things. He could go back to the lab. And he has typically been he always runs well, but he kind of, he doesn't wait for the pack to fall back, but he kind of starts a little conservative and he pushes through the end. And I wondered to myself, was this him and Anthony testing what happens if you just go out like a bat out of hell? What could you hold on if you go really, really, really hard? And it didn't work out for him. But to your point, that would crack most people. And to JK, he still finished
4th place, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I got these times backwards. Bo Wills was 57.08. JK was 57.34. So he was still 57 mid with, to BK's point, what looked like a crack. And it's crazy.
Let's look at the season also. So Amsterdam, Hong Kong, and Las Vegas. Those are 3 majors. Is he the only male athlete who has been on multiple podiums so far?
JK?
Yeah. All 3 new ones today.
Yes.
Alex
Hunter,
didn't.
It was Hunter, it was Alex, JK, and
Rylan
in Amsterdam.
Yep.
Hong Kong was JK, Tim,
Graham.
and Graham. And then today, Dylan, Hunter, Bo. So we've had a different podium every time minus JK.
And JK has finished no worse than 4th place. Like,
Fourth,
it's okay. It's gonna be okay.
I don't know where he's at right now, but from an outsider perspective, you hit your off-season button. You take a week or 2. You maybe skip the next major, and you just go on winning Worlds. And really, he might have taken 3rd today without that one surge going into the second half of the first run. Okay, that might have been just 1 ounce too much. They were already running faster than anyone has any right to run, and he surged to the lead. And then he also surged into the station. Like, just take away just one of those, and that might be enough to hold on at the end. So he was like a foolish race and a crack, and still almost snagged third against a really good field.
If you're looking at the rest of the calendar on the guys' side with how unpredictable it is, you've got Glasgow and then last chance qualifier Barcelona, like a month later in April, right? You've got to take those opportunities. Like, if you are qualified in both of those races, you've got to show up to both of them, right? Or are you putting all your eggs in one basket and hoping that let's say you want this last chance qualifier, are you hoping that you're gonna still remain in the top 15, not rely on a roll down, be fit enough, and think you can still make top 3 against everyone else who has the same plan?
Here are the names.
You race everything.
Yeah, here are the name. Here are the names of the non-qualifiers so far. Just in order of how it finished tonight: Jake Dearden, Jonathan Wynn, Rich Ryan, Colin Stiefer, Joffrey Voisin, Harry Thompson, Yannick Chopla, Ryan Kent. Don't forget, Sandy's still out there. Sadiq didn't race. I mean, there are a lot of names that didn't race. We have one more major, and we have Toby. We have one more major, and we have an LCQ. I think, Jack, if I'm any of these dudes that haven't qualified yet, if this proves anything, it's that you can't put your eggs in that LCQ basket.
Mm-mm.
You got to take both shots. You have to.
Yeah. And what Rylan and Bo and Graham have shown is that anyone has a puncher's chance at third place. Not even top 5, because they're gonna top 5 is gonna get your roll down from here on out for sure. Top 3, and you don't know what race it's gonna be at.
Matt, what was
this has not gone to chalk yet, so you have to show up.
No one got a perfect bracket on this.
Yeah.
one.
What did we say? We were talking. I think it was a couple weeks ago on when we were all together with Rich. It was like, 6th or 7th should be good enough to get a qualifier. Nope. Wasn't
nothing.
The whole field. Yeah. What was the spread like 5th through 10th? Like, how close are these people? There are a lot of people on wall.
It was
balls
close.
In the 70s
it was
80s
close. Fourth. It was close 4 through 9, and then there was a pretty big drop off.
Okay.
JK finished 4th. We'll just round out the top 10. So JK finished 4th, 120 behind. Jake Dearden 5th, 131 behind. Pelayo Menendez Fernandez 6th, 134 behind. John Wynn 7th, 154 behind. Rich Ryan 8th, 158 behind. Tim Vinish 217. And then Colin Stiefer rounded out the top 10, but he was 312 behind.
So basically a minute separating 6 places just on the doorstep.
Yeah. At wall balls, which, it's like, how many of those guys
push through knowing that their spot was out? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, that's, and the thing is like our boy Rich, we were actually talking about it. Looked good. I mean, deep into the race, the running for, obviously he's always got good running form, but like he was running smooth. He looked good in the stations. He obviously had a little bit of a tough
sled pull in 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a little bit of a tough
win a race.
And that's what he did in Chicago when he had his great time. He crushed that sled pull. And I was like, it's happening.
Yeah. I don't know. I think everyone in the field paid for the first K. I don't know how fast it felt, but visually, I've not seen Rich look like he's moving at that cadence in his first K yet this year. And the whole field that second pack looked fast.
It looked like a Deca fit where Derek York.
There's just an aggression to the arm swing that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone paid to some extent, and we saw more up and down movement. People go like 14th to 4th, back to 11th, back up to 7th. And part of that is because there were small gaps.
Yeah.
But the race was just really, I think everyone was taken out of rhythm right off the jump. And the fact that people ski hard off that has to just demoralize you, because you're like, all right, they're now 200 meters ahead. All right, they're now 300 meters ahead. And I'm not even on the run yet.
Yeah. I think if you didn't have the time or the pace available and you looked, you're like, oh, okay, there's a gap between Tim and Hunter and JK at the front. And it looked like the guys were hanging back, but they were like hanging back was still faster than they'd run in a typical race by a good margin, I believe.
Yeah, it's wild. Like just looking at some of how the final results shook out after sled push. Ryan Kinson 4th place. Tim Vinish is in 5th.
Yeah,
Marcus Wallace
huge
is
move.
Yeah, Marcus Wallace is in 7th. Then out of the sled pull, Rich Ryan's
Just
in
to
3rd.
reiterate, I think Kent went 14th to 4th.
Yes. Yeah, that was actually, so you talked about how fast. Yeah, you talked about how fast they're running. So obviously Kent and I are close. I know his fitness. I know the pace that he was planning to run. And when I saw him back there with Jeffrey Voisin on run 1, I was like, oh, these boys are
moving.
booking.
Yeah, but Jonathan Wynn was like, I think he was dead last at the beginning, right?
Joffrey. I think it was Joffrey. It was Joffrey was in last, but Wynn was back there too. Wynn was in like 13th or 12th. But then and then in the burpees, like you got all kinds of crazy moves. I mean, so Pelayo moved up to 4th and was 20 seconds ahead of Jake Dearden. Then you've got coming out of farmers carries, like it all switches up again. I mean, it was compelling start to finish. I think we've probably hammered the men as much as we can. I don't know. Is there anything else that stuck out to you all on the men's side?
It's just a wild event these days, and Glasgow is crazy.
I don't know how to draft.
Yeah,
I don't know how to draft. I don't know. No. I don't remember who got Bo Wills, but he went late, and I remember joking. I remember saying something like, "Bo's not going to get 10th. He's not going to get 10th. He got 3rd. Like that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy."
It reiterated to me when everyone's at such a high level what a small hiccup can do. We saw what it did to JK. We saw what it did to Rich on burpees. We saw what it did to, I'm trying to think who else had a little snafu. Hunter. He had 2 times he went back and forth.
He got called back on the lunges.
Yeah, I got called back on lunges and burpee broad jump as well, I think. But like those little things, Rich had to change his burpee form. That little thing took him from passing Win to losing like 18 seconds to him by the end of it. Like those little things now kill you in a tight race.
Yeah, it did seem like that hurt him, and that with the actually going back to the point that Jack just made about how tight it was. So Rich lost time there, and then he got a 10-second penalty, and he finished 38 seconds behind JK. I mean,
I think Rich went unbroken on wall balls. Also, like fitness is there.
Yeah, maybe.
He lost a good 12 seconds on the back half of his burpee broad jumps because of the change. Yeah. Now his form,
and he got no rep. He got pulled back. So there's also that too. So he could have lost 20 or 30 seconds total.
And anyway, like those kind of things show that any one of those guys could swing up into there with a little less disruption.
Yeah, bringing this comment back up. If we had the old results page, we could tell you how many seconds he lost, but we don't know because it's terrible. Yeah. Before we talk about the women, I just want to note this. There was a couple other things just about the race in general that I thought needs to get cleaned up. This is now the 3rd major race where we've had problems with the wall ball counters. We had problems with the wall ball counters and the women's. Joanna was the most notable one. It just straight up wasn't working. There was nothing wrong with her depth. She was hitting the target.
It doesn't even display. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that was wild. There was several issues with the men as well. And then they noted this on the broadcast. There was a noticeable difference in how the sleds were moving in the first 4 lanes versus how they were moving later on down the field. And I don't think it was just because the guys further down the field were working the sled harder. Hunter McIntyre is one of the strongest, if not the strongest athlete in the field. And he was laboring on that sled push. I've clocked it from the moment he started. It took him about 247, I think, roughly. He's recently been as low as 213, 220. Took him almost 3 minutes. It looked heavy, and those guys down on the far end were
they were cooking.
Yeah. Meg mentioned it on the broadcast where she's like, "Oh, look in the way back right there. So and so is moving real fast." And she did that 3 or 4 times.
We've seen it before. Lane 1 is really bad to be in because the carpet moves more. You combine that with the top 4 got out really hot, and you had some strong station monsters in that middle field with the faster sled area had expended less energy, had a reason to move up, and they're good at it. So it's like a perfect mixture of it going wrong. But again, why does it go wrong? There's still a few things they do wrong on their courses if you want the best competition. The first of which is making people run all the way down to the end or not. You have to just fill it out from the middle out. Like you snake seated or something.
Or could you
but
just let
have people in the middle? Don't use the edges.
Or could you just have more lanes so they don't?
You're like, yeah, you have 20 spots. If you want this lane, go ahead and do it. Don't punish them for getting there first to be forced to go to the one that's notorious.
And I think they have way more. You can use it. I think it's like open swim pool. Like you rain out the side, X out the far lanes. You can't use the first 3 or 4 on either side.
Too many waves hitting the edges.
And then you can fill in order because it is good visuals. But like block off the final 4 lanes.
Yeah, it's been a problem now, and the sleds have been the problem. Yeah, that was that. No, I'm not going to make excuses because they all had to do it, but it was like we actually pointed that out a couple of times watching it because it was striking how they were going at full speed, stop on a dime, turn, go. I mean, it wasn't great. So
no, and it's an advantage that you can take advantage of, but it's a bad visual. We want to see fast moving. And then they weren't sure. They used a little bit different protocol for running out of your lane. Lauren just had a sled sitting in the middle of her lane. No one else had a sled. They were setting up the polar saw. I don't know what they were doing, but there was a sled in the middle of her lane. No one else had that. So she had to stay around it, but get back into her lane.
Well, was it Harry Thompson or Yannick that had the issue on the pole where it got caught?
Oh, and he was and being like, fix it.
I get it. It's not quite at professional racing yet, but at the same time, these are now issues that are happening repeatedly, major after major world championship. It's got to get fixed. It's got to get fixed.
They're all easy. We've talked about how to make it in and an out for the Rock Zone. It's easy to do, and they're already reordering it slightly to make the arena look good. Like they do grid style racing. It's easy to change where you put your in and your out. Really easy.
Yeah, 100%.
Speaking of looking good, do you guys like the new branding colors? Looks like all white.
Oh yeah, I did actually. My buddy Scott said that it looked like Tron. I did like the white and black. Yeah, the super bright, and then it said grid in, grid out. It was clean. I mean, they are. We obviously just dogged them a little bit, but the production value, the race experience is getting better and better every time. They're gonna. I'm confident that they're gonna figure it out.
It's constructive criticism.
Good. They'll fix
very good job overall.
They're getting better at everything.
I will be watching Glasgow. Don't you worry. I will definitely be watching. So shout out again to Dylan Scott, Hunter McIntyre, and Bo Wills, your top 3 finishers. On to the women. I mean, I said this before you joined, Jack, but it used to be that the men's race was it was one person and then everybody else is just kind of up for grabs. I think that the roles have flipped, and yes, Meg is there, 1A and 1B, but Lauren won in dominating fashion.
It was insane. I saw her at DecaFit World Champs, and I was like, her running is so crazy. I was with Rylan. He's like, she's running faster than I would. And then we saw her basically at various majors throughout the HYROX season. We're like, how is she going so fast? And within 30 seconds, she had a 50 and 20 meter gap in the field, and then just never looked behind. No one even dared go with her.
There was a point in the men's race where Hunter and Dylan, you were just waiting for someone to turn the corner, and it just didn't happen. But that was station 5, station 6. Lauren Weeks did that on run 2.
Run 1 and 2, Now, the difference between her and the guys going out is that she wants to. She looks at it and says, I need to have a cushion in case things go wrong for me later. She's doing the same thing, but for a different reason. I really think the guys just can't stop pissing on each other. That's all it is. It's a contest. They just get I don't know, they see red. She makes a choice to do this, which makes it almost crazier. She just is so aggressive because she can be.
Do you think that some of it has to do with what we were talking about a few minutes ago, where she gets to the sledge first and she knows it's going to be a problem every single time I get here first or second, it's going to be a problem, and those are the slow lanes. So do you think maybe she's buying a little bit of time there? I know
Yeah.
it's in her
Did
nature
you hear?
to go
Did
out
you hear the
fast, but,
did you hear the pre-race interview?
yeah, she was getting interviewed, talking with her daughter, letting out
No,
energy
the
and stuff like
pre-race interview.
probably, but
So the pre-race interview, they asked her, I think Till asked her how she was feeling, and she said, like, he was trying to get her to say how she thought she would do, she thought she would place for the day, and she said, "I don't feel confident until after the sleds." So I do wonder if there is something to that. If I need to get a lead to get through these, because these have been a pain point for me the last couple of races, and they weren't a pain point today.
Yeah, although I will say on the sled push, I messaged you guys in the group chat. Her first 25 down and back, she did it in 50 seconds, and her second half was in a minute 33. So like big drop off there. She's still moving. That was much faster than Hunter's time relative, but maybe there is some truth to that, where she knows she's going to lose a little bit of ground there. It's just not a super strength for her.
But she came out, or maybe she was just racing, because she came out 10 seconds ahead on ski, and she kept that lead through sled push. She was still 10 seconds ahead through sled push, but then through sled pull. And for those listening live and for everyone here, that's where she got buried at World Championships. She left sled pull with a 32-second gap. So sled
time
pull,
on. Yeah.
she put time on
in those same lanes.
in those
that
same
weren't
lanes.
moving.
Oh yeah, because you literally are using that same exact track.
She had a minute and a half, or she had a minute and 4-second lead after burpees, and by the row it was 92 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow.
What this major showed me is that, like, to use a football term, like, you have to, on defense, avoid chunk plays. And on offense, you have to get them whenever possible. Like, you can't give up chunks of time anywhere. And if you think you're going to, you have to build in that cushion somewhere. And she's become a master at that. Like, she fixes her weaknesses, but then she plays to still hedge her bets against that. Where you saw, like, Hunter's race ended on the lunges. He gave up a chunk play. Suddenly you just couldn't make that up anymore. Rich gave up a chunk play. Like, you can't make up for that. She gets ahead of her chunk plays now, whenever possible. She gets ahead of that yardage so that if it all goes wrong, I at least can afford a bad station here, and I can get back to work with my fitness.
And if we look at station by station skier, what do you best versus worst, 5-10 seconds? Same thing with rower, same thing with farmers. Essentially, half of the zones are just eliminated right off the bat. So your chunks are in 4 to 5 specific areas. You make those
And the run.
bulletproof. Yeah, and the run is such a strength.
She takes
for her.
that.
Yeah.
This was Meg versus the field at World Championships almost identically.
Yeah.
I think Meg finished 60-30 or right around there at Worlds. Jack, you probably remember the exact time, but it was 60 something. Tonight, Lauren Weeks finished 60-31. It was over by the burpees, and it was, okay, who's going to finish second, third, and fourth? And it was compelling. And I think the thing that is scary is, I mean, Lauren has come on TRP and talked about her training methodology, or maybe lack thereof. Although I think there's probably a pretty decent training methodology. I think they're being a little coy in her specificity.
Very dialed on their quality runs and ergs.
Yes.
And they build engine other places.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is that I don't think she's not focused on HYROX, but she's running 100K next Saturday. So she's not as sharp for HYROX as what she will be 4 months from now, because she's about to run 100K, and yet she still obliterated the field.
Look at the 2 winners. 100K, that's some serious volume. Dylan Scott, volume monster. Hunter McIntyre, volume monster. Like, that's the secret, it seems.
Yeah. This is interesting, and I do want to talk about that. But first of all, this was a reminder that there are levels to things. Like, Michaela can come out and win a race. Joanna can come out and win a race. but there's only 2 people on that side that can blow the field out more days than they don't. Like, other women can win a race. They can catch them and beat them, but no one's slaughtering the field except for Meg and Lauren. And Lauren reminded us of that.
point.
On a tough day, on a slow
Yeah.
course, she still ran within a minute of what she always runs.
Yeah, and you almost you with the exception of Hong Kong, which I think may have been travel related, you almost need, if you're going to catch one of them, you need them to crack each other.
Mhm.
I mean, that's kind of what has happened historically when Michaela has won, is Meg and Lauren trade blows and crack each other.
And she runs her own race in the background, and
yeah, exactly. And she kind of is there to eat it up. And there's just, if Meg or Lauren is not there, I just don't see how you can 10 times. I mean, not even we talked. I think the comment was said on the preview show. You know, Lauren and Joanna are 1A and 1B, and I think we got to take that back. it's Lauren Weeks, it's Lauren Weeks, and it's Meg Jacoby, and it's just that they're a different class.
It was until this race, and then she hit her first roadblock, and she's new to this. She's going to hit those. She may surpass Lauren someday, but right now Lauren is so much better than her when she's better than Joanna is when she's better.
Yeah.
If that makes any logical sense.
Yeah.
We were talking on the men's side how James Kelly is the only one with multiple podiums. Like Joanna, Lauren, both of them 3 for 3 this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
back to volume for 1
there are
second.
levels. Yeah.
The difference between Lauren and Dylan is very interesting to me, because Lauren is a globalized fitness trainer who sharpens when it matters, but is always running and erging the way they want to for racing. Where Dylan is a globalized fitness trainer who's always doing station work to benefit HYROX. And he does way bigger volume, but the bigger the volume you do, the more specifically you have to taper and sharpen. And we've seen Hunter struggle to balance that. We've seen Dylan struggle to balance that. We really haven't seen Lauren struggle to balance that. And I think that's where an Anthony or someone like that comes in, where they're very metric driven, where Dylan's very intuitive in training. But the bigger the build, the bigger the peak, and the bigger the taper needs to be. And what Dylan has to start doing right now is figuring out, what is that going to look like for me? Unless he just is going to commit to not tapering and racing off his training like he always does, and not having to travel big, covering up for that.
HYROX Worlds,
is that his variable he changes, that he just doesn't have to travel this time.
Yeah, HYROX Worlds is like June 14th, roughly, plus or minus a couple days. He should start tapering on like Cinco de Mayo with like how much volume he's got.
That, or he takes he won't, but or you take 2 weeks off now and just build all the way through it. He wins races when he is in his big block of training. He responds well to that. He crushes his workouts and hits his metrics when he's tired. He can race off that. It's when things get changed that his body rebels. Yeah. Sometimes as soon as you finish a race and you deload, you get sick. Like, his body has a version of that. But he's got to figure out something, either how to taper or how to time it so that he can be at his biggest build on race day and not taper. Because he's proven he could have as good a shot to win this as anyone.
Yeah, there are like 5 guys who could win it at least at this point. Just real quick, one more thing on Lauren Weeks. We talked about travel. She moved back to Las Vegas, probably slept in her own bed. We saw Alex do this in Austria or in Vienna last season. And I'm telling you, I know you guys made fun of me for home field advantage. Like, it seems real. And I really think U.S. athletes, if they can find a way to get into world championships, are going to have a huge edge just being on home soil.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, but I mean, a lot of Europeans did well on the men's side tonight, better than the men, and I think even it doesn't make sense to me. The things that seem like they should make sense don't. I don't get it, and I feel like we still haven't, kind of going back to the concept of volume. I've been involved in HYROX now for 4 years, and I feel like every year there's like a new method and like what people think like works and doesn't work and whatnot. And it just is like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think anyone's figured it out. But you're right. I mean, right now the top dogs seem to be heavy volume. I mean, Meg is heavy volume when she's not hurt. I think she runs. I think she said 60 to 70 miles a week, which is
That's a lot in this space on top of all the other supplementary work she's doing.
yeah. I mean, that's a lot. So shout out to Lauren Weeks. Incredible race. Joanna hung with her. The most impressive race to me on the women's side.
Yeah.
What happened? What'd I do?
Oh, no. Like peaks and valleys placement throughout
Oh.
the race with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most impressive race to me on the women's side was Linda Meyer. And the reason why was she came, let's see, she finished third. So she secured her world qualifying spot. She was fourth out of the sled pull, but interestingly enough, she was 13th out of sled push. That sled push, for whatever reason, it just wasn't going well. We had already seen Viola drop out at that point in the race. They talked about it, and it wasn't like the women's field on the sled push was pretty compact. She was at that point, she was almost a minute behind third place coming out of sled push. She worked her way back. She had a great sled pull. At that point, she was in fourth place, 56 seconds back behind Lauren, but only 2 seconds behind Lauren Griffith and 22 seconds behind Joanna. She fell back again in the burpees. She was 8th place out of burpees at a minute 30. She fought her way back into the row. She fell back in farmer's carry to 6th, 7th. She worked her way back to 3rd in lunges, and then she finished 20 seconds ahead of Amy Bevilacqua, who we will most certainly talk about, by 20 seconds. And peaks and valleys. I mean, we talk about yo-yo. I mean, she literally would fall way back. She would surge up. She'd fall back. She'd surge up. And then when it mattered, she dug deep. She closed hard, securing her spot. And again, this is someone who we talked about as kind of that next tier who will eat you up if you're not ready. And I mean, that was a gritty race to surge to get to top 3 and then to fall back and to just keep coming and take wave after wave of hit and just battle through the race. I mean, that was impressive. So shout out to Linda.
The announcers
awesome.
wrote her off twice.
She looked visibly frustrated on the sled push towards the end when they looked at her. I was like, it's not
They
happening.
said at one point, not having the race we'd expected out of her.
Till said not having the race we'd expect out of Linda.
And he was right. And then she makes a podium. You have to be doing really bad to have the announcers say, like, I wonder what's going wrong today.
Yeah. Bracken, you mentioned your football analogy. Don't give up big plays. Don't lose or gain big plays in chunks. That's all she did. She was throwing 40-yard bombs downfield. You know, next
she was giving up, and she was giving up
to drop it, and then the next one should do a Hail Mary. That's all that she did. It was just back and forth.
And like JK, I think it speaks to how good she can be. Like, that is not easy. It's one thing if you're steady Eddie the whole time and people around you are going up and down, but you don't lose spots on farmer's carry unless something's going south. It didn't make any logical sense.
Gutsy.
That did not make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to talk about Amy.
Yeah.
Bevilacqua.
But I mean, real quick back on Linda, like she had third, second, like all these super close finishes, just missed the podium. She was in that wall ball off in the 90s when, second through fourth finished at World Championship last year. Like, is she back?
I think after watching what we watched tonight, I don't think she's probably back to the fitness that she had before. But I think that she proved something to herself and to everybody tonight. I wouldn't want to face her in 4 months.
No.
If you finish 13 seconds behind the woman who won the previous major, Joanna, who just got second at this current race, and you had that crazy back and forth, losing time, gaining time, so she gets a steady race, and I think we've got the old Linda back.
Awesome. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to see her in 4 months.
You got to be great. You have to be able to win ugly.
That
And
was
she
ugly
did today. Like
Yeah.
you have to be
Yeah.
able to pull it out, and she
100%. She did.
Blowouts don't teach you anything.
No.
It was gutsy. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was awesome. It was awesome to watch. It was fun to watch too, you know, because
Yeah.
like I think and a lot of times in these races we see people crack and they just throw it in. And she never threw it in. She just kept chipping away.
And I didn't know if she had that part in her. Like we talk about some of the men where like we just know they're gonna close it down. Like all they do is win ugly. And she had that. She didn't need to be on tilt for it to go right. I hate hearing about the Chiefs at this point in time. But everyone's like, oh, half their wins came by 1 score or less, and they got lucky. It's like, yeah, but would you want to face them in a 1 score or less game now? Like they know every way to win a game. She's figuring out more ways to make a podium now, and that is not good news for people around her.
Yeah. So I guess, Jack, Linda's back. We'll say
Linda's back. Yeah.
All right.
Amy B.
Bracken, I'm gonna let you take this one because she's on your team. I mean, you didn't let her get back to Dawson. I mean, where do we even begin?
I don't know. I always know that something is real when my kids pick up on it. So we're watching this, and when they pick up on the wall ball not working, the counter, it's like, listen, if my 6-year-old daughter, 7, if my 7-year-old daughter can recognize that this should be working, that's a real problem. But when my kids pick up on the fact that she doesn't look like the other girls out there, and then they find out that she's a grandma and they think it's incredible, and they also are picking up that she's pacing it differently. Like she did the Kent. She was in second last off the jump. And just they're all a fan of her now.
She's old enough to be Lucy Proctor's mom, and technically
30-year difference.
She could almost be Lucy. I mean, she could almost be Lucy Proctor's grandma.
Yeah.
I mean,
biologically speaking. Yeah.
So watching it with 2 young girls today, and I've realized HYROX has now surpassed OCR for like the greatest thing you can watch with daughters. If you just want them to realize like I can be a superhero if I want. It's pretty awesome. But watching it with my 2 daughters and them seeing that happening was just like, I don't even have to say a word. Like you're doing my parenting for me. It's awesome.
Yeah. And kind of same thing as Linda out of the sled pull. She was in 10th. So she was 5th out of the sled push. She fell back on the sled pull and then she chipped away. Burpees out. She was 7th. She fell back on the row. She was 8th. On the farmer's carry, she moved up to 6th. She came out of the lunges in 4th. We know that wall balls haven't been a strength of hers, and I don't know if she went unbroken, but if she didn't, she was damn near close. Yeah, if she didn't, she was super close, and she finished 19 seconds behind Linda, within 30 seconds of Joanna. Kind of the same thing that Bracken just said. You're within 30 seconds of someone who is the ascending rising star. I mean, first off,
I'll
good
take
for
credit
her
for that one, Jack.
Yeah. No, I was gonna let him go with that, and I was gonna be like, actually, I said that, but that's fine.
It's late. We're at midnight o'clock.
It's
right
late.
now.
It is late. It is late.
We'll wrap it up soon.
It is late. We'll wrap it up soon. But I mean, that's impressive. I mean, it's impressive. And it's not even like, I think, Bracken, to your point, it's not even that she's 54 and she's a mom of 5. Like, that's not even the thing that is inspiring in and of itself. She's right there. She's not
better.
She's not 15th. She's not I think she's not a roll down anymore. She is arguably one of the top 5, top 6 best women in the sport at 54. I mean,
yeah, they showed a replay of her actually coming on her last run towards wall balls, and it made me wish we had her on camera more, because we saw her. She's just like the consummate grizzled vet. She just runs her stride. She's kind of like Palaio. She just runs her stride, and as you guys get tired, she's just going to start chopping you down. But she opened up on her last run. They only showed a little glimpse of it, but her stride was cooking all of a sudden. Like she was giving it at the end. She was selling out to get to wall balls ahead, and then she did that. Like that, you can improve your wall balls, or you can improve your run into wall balls. But to attack the run in and then fix the thing that's hard for you at 54, like again, like you said, take the age away. That's a step forward that any one of these athletes would take.
Yeah, and let's not forget she's doing this in 2025. This isn't 2019 when there are only a few people trying this. There are a lot of people.
This
who are
feels
flying
legit
around the world trying to get this, and she is on the doorstep of making the podium at these major races. It's insane.
She's legit.
Yeah,
she is legit. Shout out to Amy Bevilacqua. It's inspiring for multiple reasons. I think the last story on the women's side, and we don't need to spend a ton of time here, but
opposite
Lucy Proctor
side of the age spectrum.
Yeah, Lucy Proctor has arrived. That was 21 years old
in the first half of the race, first third of the race.
Well,
I looked at her running, and I was
she
like,
was way last.
Yeah,
she was way last out of ski.
Hurt.
Well, Meg kept talking about it. She's like, this isn't one of her strengths. And it was visibly, she didn't look like an elite athlete on the ski.
I thought this was I'm not going to call out a name. We've had some men show up with fast times in obscure nations and then get to a race and just be like, I don't belong here. I thought that's what we were looking at. And then she put me in my place.
I mean, she did it in Nice before where she won her age group world title. That proves ahead of time, like she's the real deal. This is her first cut at the action when it comes to, the elite side of the sport. Let's see, Dawson.
You could drink instant coffee for an hour.
Yeah.
Still instant coffee.
He's just mad he's not on the show.
Yeah, he's just
only one episode a week for Dawson.
Well, really, he's mad because unfortunately, he takes Debo's result, which means that he did not deserve to get in ahead of Colin. So, but
yeah. All right. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think Lucy, same thing. I just went back and looked. She kind of she worked her way back up after the ski, but she kind of kept falling back into that 6th, 7th range. She was 7th coming out of the lunges, so that's a pretty decent move. Yeah, great close. And she's 21. She's younger than Joanna. I mean, between Joanna and Lucy Proctor, I mean, you were looking at the future of the women's field. I mean, that is, and Amy, that's right. So rounding out the top 10, just really quick for the women: Lauren Weeks, 60.31; Joanna Wietrich, 62.53; Linda Meyer in 3rd, 63.06; Amy Bevilacqua, 4th, 63.25; Lucy Proctor, 5th, 63.56; Kate Davey, 6th, with a 64; Lauren Griffiths, 7th, with a 64 high; Camilla Massa, 8th, 66 mid; Zara Pirgiani, 67 low; Vivian Tafuto, 10th, 67 high. Any other thoughts on the women's race, fellas?
Is Kate Davey okay? We saw her kind of grabbing her foot after. I'm sure there's not info at this point, but I remember seeing her take her shoe off and kind of grab.
I took it as cramps. I mean, I'm not obviously.
Yeah.
Just heavy disclaimer here. I work in tech sales. I am not a doctor, but she was able to finish, and the way she was rubbing her foot kind of looked like cramps. And when Lauren was talking to her, Lauren was smiling. I would have thought if she thought it was more serious, she might have been
had a worried look. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk cramps? Second Arning. What a gutsy finish right there. That was those 5 wall balls. We've all been there.
I wouldn't.
But that was impressive finish.
As bad as your body.
Yeah.
We've seen some women's body give out on them in HYROX this year. Guys, just slow down.
What did Till say? What did Till say? We've never seen someone on their butt before on wall balls.
Yeah.
That is tough.
Yeah.
Tough. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
We'll reveal the draft stuff next week during the episode. Right. I didn't calculate it yet.
Yeah, I don't blame you. All right. Well, we're looking forward to it. Glasgow should be good. These well, I will say actually, now same thing for the women. It's kind of wide open on people that who still has not gotten in.
It's only going to heat up
to the women's field.
You have a chance to race, you better be there.
Yeah, you got to think Viola is going to get right. She hasn't secured a spot yet. Camila still has not secured a spot. Zara has not secured a spot. Vivian Tafuto has not secured a spot. Secca Arning. And then Lucy got one tonight, right? 5th was the last spot. It
Yep.
was, yeah, because it was Linda, Amy, and Lucy.
Yep.
And there were some women who weren't there. So
It's gonna be good.
you got to race. Got to race. All right, boys. It's 6 after midnight. I have to run a 5K. Bracken's running a 50K.
I'm gonna go
Jack, what are you doing?
My
tomorrow?
workout right now. So you know.
Yeah, that's right.
right
Jack will
around
be up. Jack will be up for another 4
a
hours.
couple hours. Yeah.
Dawson, you got to go to bed, big dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dawson. We need it.
57 to run
We're
tomorrow.
gonna compare your time tomorrow. see
Yeah,
how-
real quick, Dawson. If you're
accurate
still
that
logged
is.
in,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're still logged in, Dawson, put that prediction. You won't. Don't be a coward.
Well,
put
he
that
said it's
prediction in the
equal
chat.
to Marcus, so we're gonna.
Well,
find
if it's equal to Marcus, then he's no longer going to be in the top 40 because that time's not going to cut it.
Oof.
Marcus was in it.
Marcus was in it. This is not, yeah, for the record, this is not Debo
No.
slander. We talk about this all the time. There's a difference between time trialing and racing. Marcus stuck his nose in it. He was in it deep into the race. Got nothing to
He
hang
did
his
not
head
finish
about.
15th.
He did
That's
not
just-
finish 15th.
Tell you what, if we take a snapshot coming out of that sled pull, and I thought, yep, this is USA sleds on
Yep,
US soil,
America.
and this is different. And then it changed.
Yeah.
But for a second there, I thought we're doing it.
America. Let's go.
America, baby.
Yep.
Dawson's
right.
going to play it coy. I'm going to have text messages lighting me up for this after. All right, boys, get some sleep. Bracken, good luck tomorrow.
So you too.
You guys.